Well, what happens in a year is many times shaped by your choices. There's circumstances that do arise, but there's a lot of times when your choices, the decisions you make, do impact what happens throughout the year. Where did you spend your time? Where did you spend your money? What activities were you involved in? What kind of relationships were you involved in? The type of people you hung out with? During Christmas, we had a conversation with, my kids, and all three of them were home, and their spouses were with them. And we talked about how life would have been different if I didn't leave the school system down in Virginia. Would I still be there? Would I still be living in Virginia? How about making the choice to go to seminary in Nyack and going through schooling there for a couple years, and then looking around for places as a pastor to serve, and the choice to come here to Mac in Bennington, Vermont. How different would things be if we made different choices? For one thing, I wouldn't know all of you. If I didn't come here, you wouldn't know me. There's probably the chance that my daughter would not have met the man she married. And, there's a lot of different things that can make a difference with your choices. And as you look back, you can't change the past. There's no way you can change it, but the decisions you make today will impact today, but also your future. And as you enter this new year, as we come into this new year, you're given almost a blank slate. A blank slate. Remember years ago, some of you remember going to school on a blackboard, the teacher would use chalk and write. Some of you remember that. Some of you are going, what is that? How about, a whiteboard? Some of you probably still see whiteboards in school today. Maybe not. Whiteboard, it's all blank. It's there for you to fill up. How about a new document on your computer? Just a whole white page just sitting there for you to type something in. Or if you're an artist, how about a blank canvas ready for you to make something? Well, many of us have good intentions at the beginning of the year. We start thinking about what we would like to do, something we would like to change, something we would like to stop doing. We have all these good intentions, but your year is not going to be shaped by good intentions. Your year is going to be shaped by what you decide to do. There's going to be big decisions that you're going to have to make. Decisions like a job, a location, a major purchase, or even picking out friends or getting new friends, or even dealing with some of the old friends that may be dragging you down. Then there's those so small little choices that you're going to make. These daily choices can have a big impact over time because, if you repeatedly do these things for a long period of time, they're going to impact you. For example, what you eat and drink can really impact your health. If you constantly eat some of the junk that they have in, the grocery stores, what I find out is when I go to the grocery store, I'm usually on the outskirts. I hardly ever go down the middle aisles because the middle aisles are where you find what? All the processed food. On the outside, you find all the fresh stuff. And, the more processed food you eat, the more sugary drinks you drink, it's going to impact your health. And then how about this? Some of the activities you do or don't do. They tell you that if you live a sedentary lifestyle, I think the report was, Joy will tell me if I'm right, it's like smoking 2 packs a day. 3, up to 3 now. If you sit around and do nothing, for example, you sit around, guys, many guys do this, you sit all day long on that phone doing your video games. Guess what? You might as well just get up and smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day. That's the same health risk that you have. If you are, what you drink all the time. My dad was drinking so much coffee at one time that, and there's some people that only drink coffee all day long. He was told by his doctor, you better stop and you better cut back because it's going to kill you. You know, you think, oh, coffee, you kill me? Well, this is what the doctor told my dad. He had to, cut back. So you know what happened? He would drink a little and pour the rest into a plant to try to kill the plant. Guess what happened to the plants? He had the best looking plants in the whole office building. All right. And what he intended to do backfired. You know, what you read. You know, if you read something things on a regular basis, it's going to impact your life. I mean, are you reading the Bible or you're reading Harlan romance novels? I mean, what is going to impact your life? What you watch. You're going to have all these things in your brain. And once it's in your brain, it's hard to get out, and it may never get out. So these small choices that you make every day are going to impact you. And so today, I want us to look at Joshua 24, and we're going to go through 28 verses today, 1 through 28. And if you're looking in your pew Bible, it's page 335. I hope that you're bringing your own so you can, make some choices about what you can put down, underline, put notes, whatever. But you're going to make choices this year. This is only the fourth day, and you probably already made some choices this year that you said, yeah, that was a good one, or you already made some choices that wasn't too good. But you're going to be making choices throughout this year, and it's going to impact your life. But there's one choice that's going to impact many other things in your life. It's going to impact everything else, because this one choice will impact your priorities. This one choice will impact what you value. This one choice will actually be what you will build your foundation on about what your worldview is going to be. And your worldview is how you look at the world. So your choices that you make are going to impact. And this one that we're going to talk about today is going to impact everything you do or don't do. And so this is what we're going to look at today, because you know what? Let's go to the first slide. It's decision time. Decision time. And that's what we're going to be looking at today, decision time. Let's go to verse 1, if you would join me. Then Joshua assembled all the tribes of Israel at Shechem. He summoned the elders, the leaders, the judges, the officials of Israel, and they presented themselves before God. You see, Joshua had just led the people out of the wilderness, and he brought them into the promised land, and they had just taken over the promised land. And now they come to a place called Shechem. Why is this town, this location important? Well, this is the very location when God took Abraham and he brought him to this place, and he said, Abraham, look out over all this land. This is going to be yours and your descendants, and they are going to multiply, and they're going to be great in this land. So they knew this. When Joshua called them and said, show up at this place, and they all showed up, they knew that this was the promised land that God said to Abraham, this is yours. And so they're at Shechem, and everyone had come. Everyone, all the people of the tribes, all the leaders. And this is important because this is something that Joshua is going to say, hey, you people, you've been freed from slavery. You've been given this land. You have much to be thankful for. Now, what are you going to do with God? What are you going to do with God, and how are you going to live? And it says they presented themselves before God, which means that they knew that they were coming before God, and they were going to have to address something with God, so they had to be ready. That means their hearts and their minds were in the right perspective as they came. They were serious. They had self-evaluation going on. They probably had to go and confess their sins because they were coming before God. They were presenting themselves before God. And I'd like to ask you this. If you were going to stand before God, what would you do? How would you prepare? Would you just roll out of bed in your pajamas and go, yeah, here I am, God? Or would you get up? Would you shower? Would you clean? Would you put on the best outfit you had? And would you go before God with an attitude of, God, I know who you are and I know who I am, and I'm ready to meet you? Too many times we just show up not really thinking about, we're trying to come into the presence of God. And so think about that, because this is decision-making time. And here it is. First point is this: time to get serious. It's time to get serious about making the right decision. It's time to be serious about thinking about it. It's time to get ready. It's time to think about who you are. And it's time to think about what you're going to do. You got to be serious about this. And let's go to verses 2 to 4 as we read. Follow along. Joshua said to all the people, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Long ago, your forefathers, including Terah, the father of Abraham, and Nahor, lived beyond the river and worshipped other gods. But I took your father Abraham from the land beyond the river and led him through Canaan and gave him many descendants. I gave him Isaac, and to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. I assigned the hill country of Seir to Esau, and Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt." You see, they're doing a rewind. Let's remember, let's review what God has done here. What did he do? He called out Abraham out of this land from where he lived and said, "Leave it, and I got a new place for you. I got something new for you. I want to bring you to a place that's going to be yours. Leave this world behind and enter this new area." And so he decided to follow God. And as he followed him, he made that decision to go, and God brought him to this land, right to Shechem, where they are standing right now. And he was going to give it, God was going to give to Abraham this land, and the descendants would live in it forever. Now, in the course of time, God works through one line, and so he took Esau and blessed Esau with his own country, but then he said, "Okay, Jacob, I got something else to do," and this was going to be the nation of Israel. And what ended up happening? They ended up going down into Egypt because of the famine. Right? And so they lived there for a while. And so they're being reminded of God calling them out, God doing something for their people. Let's go to verse 5 to 7. "Then I sent Moses and Aaron. I afflicted the Egyptians by what I did there, and I brought you out. When I brought your fathers out of Egypt, you came to the sea, and the Egyptians pursued them with chariots and horsemen as far as the Red Sea. But they cried to the Lord for help, and he put darkness between you and the Egyptians. He brought the sea over them and covered them. You saw with your own eyes what I did to the Egyptians. Then you lived in the desert for a long time." He's reminding them of all this. When they went down into Egypt, what happened? They ended up multiplying so much, the Egyptians were afraid of them, so they enslaved them. And the people were in slavery for 400 years down there. They multiplied. They were a great nation, but the Egyptians had them underneath their thumb. And they cried out to God. God said, "Okay, it's time is now. I'm going to send a deliverer to set them free." He sends Moses down there, Moses and Aaron, and they bring the people out. You know, you go through that whole story of what happened, but let's just stay with the simple thing right now. God brought them out, and God was going to bring them into the promised land. And then as they were leaving, the Egyptians had a change of thought. Hey, we can't let these people go. And they pursued them. The army went out and pursued them. And when the Israelites got to the Red Sea, they were trapped. They looked behind, and all they could see was the Egyptian army coming after them. And what did God do? You remember the story. God opened up the sea to let the people through. And when the people of Israel got to the other side, what did God do? God destroyed the enemies by bringing the sea back on to the pursuing Egyptians. And a mighty nation at the time was destroyed, not by man, but by God. And so then after that, they were in the desert, the wilderness. And for a long time, we know for 40 years, what happened? The people did not listen to God, even though God had done all these things for them. They didn't trust God enough to go into the land 40 years earlier when God said, go. They made all these excuses. No, we can't do that. These people are too big, whatever. And so they wandered for 40 years in the wilderness, a long time. Let's go on. The story is not done. This is a reminder. God's telling me then, I brought you to the land of the Amorites who lived east of the Jordan. They fought against you, but I gave them into your hands. I destroyed them from before you, and you took possession of their land. When Balak, son of Zippor, the king of Moab, prepared to fight against Israel, he sent for Balaam, the son of Beor, to put a curse on you. But I would not listen to Balaam. So he blessed you again and again, and I delivered you out of the land. You see, God was bringing them into the land here. God was saying, this is the land I promised. And some of you are probably thinking, well, what about the people that were in the land? What about those Amorites that were living in the land? Why did God do this to them? Well, if you look at any accounts of what these people were like, these people were really wicked people. They were so wicked in the fact that they would go as far as human sacrifices. They worshiped by killing babies. All right? They were a wicked, wicked people. And God gave them time, 400 years, to try to get it right, and they just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And God had said, hey, when the time is right, I'm going to come in and I'm going to discipline these people. And so he was using the nation Israel to bring discipline upon these very people who were so wicked and evil. And so then we go on. Then you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho. The citizens of Jericho fought against you. Rather than going, wait, your God is big and your God is great, let's worship the God. They said, no, we're going to fight against this God. When you fight against God, you will lose. That's the moral of the story here. The citizens of Jericho fought against you, as did the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hittites, all these ites. Okay, all these people, the Gerasites, the Hittites, and the Jebusites. But I gave them into your hand. I sent the hornets ahead of you, which drove them out before you. Also, the 2 Amorite kings. You did not do it with your own sword and bow. See, when the people were entering into the land, the enemies came up against them, and God always intervened. And God said, "Man, I got your back." He destroyed their enemies, and the people took possession of the promised land. And God's reminding them, this wouldn't have happened. Where you're standing today would not have happened. This land of Shechem that you're looking out at, which I promised to Abraham for you, you would not have this if it wasn't for me. God is reminding them of that, and then God made it all possible. And then, verse 13, it says this, so I gave you a land on which you did not toil, and cities you did not build, and you live in them, and eat from the vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant. God said, man, I am just blessing you. I'm blessing you now. You are my people. You inherited all the cities, the homes, the fields, and you didn't do any of it, but you're reaping the reward because you are following me. And so when you are making a decision in life, don't only be serious, but the next point is this. Remember what God has done. Remember what God has done. You know, in our during Christmas, this was our kids played a practical joke on Joy and I. What they did was they sent this card with money in it and a little note, and it said, "Ed and Joy, we thought about you, so we wanted to bless you," and they put a $100 bill in there. All it was signed at the bottom was the name David and Linda. Now, when I got it, I like, oh, David and Linda, Joy, your cousin just sent us some money. We're blessed. She goes, David and Linda, they're both dead. All right, so wasn't that David and Linda? And so we were going, okay, who's David? No return address, no last name. And we were thinking, who is this? And Joy's going, we got to send a thank you card. We didn't know who to send it because there's just a David and a Linda. And we were going, okay. Stuff like this has happened before to us. We get little notes. Ever since being in seminary, we'd always get notes and little cards thinking of you and sending money. And it was money we needed in order to survive when we were in seminary. A lot of times it ended up being the exact amount we needed to pay a bill. And the money would just show up. And even here, we have people over the 23 years we've been here. We would get notes from people saying, I'm thinking about you. People that don't go to this church, people who, friends of ours, or people we've known. And so we get this. So we're thinking, all right, this has to be a real thing because this type of stuff has happened to us many times before. But who is David and Linda? Who are they? And Joy is going through lists and thinking, I'm going through lists because we've lived in a lot of different places, right? And there's people all over the country we know because of the places we live. Was it somebody we knew at seminary? Was it somebody down in the church in Culpeper, Virginia? Was it somebody we met at district conference? Was it somebody? And they are cracking up at us. Finally, when we're over in Maine, I was down, my mother lives in my sister's home in the basement. I'm down there talking with my mom, and someone, Joy, was you come down, or somebody came down and said, hey, the kid's got something to tell us. And then we're like, okay. Yeah, Joy came down. And so we get up there, and our son-in-law, Matt, goes, I did some research. I found out who Dave and Linda are. And we're like, all right, who is it? And he shows the phone, and it's a picture of he and Leanne. And, so we're like, oh man, they played a good joke on us and we had a lot of fun, but there's all that. But I bring that up to you because it was such a good prank because it was real. Because this had happened to us before and God had used other people in our life. And so when I think about what God has done over the years, and this was just a reminder of that, all right, I started going, man, I remember what God has done. So when it comes to making decisions, all right, I can remember that God has done stuff in the past for me. And so I can trust him, all right? And because he has taken some bad situations and made them good. And so this is why he's such a good God. And it's easy to believe in God because of what he's done. Now, after this reminder that, Joshua shared with the people, we get to verses 14 in the first part of 15. And Joshua then makes a demand there. Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods of your forefathers worship beyond the river and in Egypt and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourself this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your forefathers served beyond the river or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you're living. Joshua is saying, hey, remember what God's done? But now you got a choice to make. Your choice is decision-making time. What are you going to do with this very God who's done so much for you? All right, he's demonstrated his love and faithfulness to you. It's time for a decision. Are you going to follow this God or are you going to follow other gods? Because Joshua knew there were competing gods out there. There were these gods of other nations, and he's saying, which one are you going to serve? Which one are you going to worship? Now is the time to choose. Don't put it off. This is urgent. And so, the third point I have for you is this. Now is the time to make the decision. Now is the time. Don't put it off. In our context, what are the competing gods? We don't have, people running around with a little idol on a table and worshiping that. We don't have that today. But we do have other gods out there. There's a guy by the name of Drake May, some of you may have never heard of. Well, there's people out there that are almost worshiping this young man just for playing football. All right? They worship him. They worship success. They worship money. They may worship relationships. They may worship entertainment. But Jesus told us one thing back in Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters. So the call is urgent. The call is urgent. What are you going to decide to do with God? So, the next point is moving into this. Verse 15, the second part of verse 15 is this. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua makes an announcement, a decision. He's seen all that God has said, all that God has done. He's seen all this stuff. He's experienced it. And he says, this God is the God I'm going to serve. This is the one I'm going to serve. He makes his choice. He's not waiting for the people to make the decision. He's not waiting for them to decide. He's not going to let them influence him. He's not going to wait for the crowd to move. No, he's saying, this is what I'm going to do. Me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. I'm going to follow God, and I'm going to pass this on in my household. I'm going to lead. I'm going to be the example. And so, decision-making time, the fourth point is this. Make your own decision. Make your own decision. Everyone's got to make their own decision. Some of you who are young right now, still living at home, you may be thinking, that's my parents' decision, but not mine. One day you're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to follow God or not? And then there's going to be competing influences out there. Who are you going to listen to? I hope you don't listen to anybody but God. I hope you say to yourself, the decision I'm going to make is going to be my decision, and I'm going to do it for these reasons. You know, I've seen many people over the years say, I'll follow God, but they're only following God because everyone else around them was following God. And as soon as they got out of that crowd of people, their decisions changed. That's what you call a chameleon. Someone changes to their environment. Don't be a chameleon. Be someone that says, this is a decision I make. No one else is going to influence me. I see what God has done. You see, we see these 4 things here. Get time to be serious. Remember what God has done. Now's the time to make a decision, and you got to make your own decision. Look at what God has done in your life. Look at what is going on. So Joshua made his call. He made his decision in verse 16 and 18. Then the people answered, far be it from us to forsake the Lord to serve other gods. You know, so they had experienced God. They had seen what God had done. It was the Lord our God himself who brought us up and our fathers out of Egypt from the land of slavery. They remember that and performed these great signs before our eyes. They witnessed all this stuff. And he protected us on our entire journey and among all nations through which we had traveled. You know, they're thinking, they're going through this. And the Lord drove out before us all the nations, including the Amorites who lived in the land. We too will serve the Lord because he is our God. You notice they don't say because he's your God. He says because it's our God. They are making a decision. The people were responding. Now, you would think that Joshua would be really happy at this point. Yeah, they're doing what they're told to do. They're picking the right sin. But no, he knew the challenges that were going to come up. He knew what they were going to face. And so we read on in 19, Joshua said to the people, he didn't go, hey, all right, good choice, good decision. No, he said, you are not able to serve the Lord. He is a holy God. He is a jealous God. And he will no longer forgive your rebellion and your sin. If you forsake the Lord and serve foreign gods, he will turn and bring disaster on you and make an end of you after he has been good to you. So Joshua is saying that there's challenges out there. It's easy to talk the talk, but it's hard to walk the walk. Let me give you an example. There's 5 people sitting on a dock. 4 people decide that they're going to jump in the water. How many people are still on the dock? 5. It's not 4, not 1. 4 people decided to jump in the water, but making a decision doesn't mean you did it. That means you're saying, this is what I'm going to maybe do. And so they're sitting on the dock still. And so Joshua says, well, think about this for a minute. Before you make this decision, don't take it lightly, because this God is a holy God. He is above anything else. Holy basically means separate. He's separate from the world. He's not going to follow the worldly ways. He's going to do things his way, at his time, at his pace. He's a holy God. Are you ready to meet this holy God? Are you ready to serve this holy God? He's a jealous God, meaning he says, I'm the only God that's worthy to be worshiped. Don't give yourself to any of these things. Don't be following these idols. And for you today, it may be a sports star, music star, whatever star that you're trying to follow. I mean, that's not what you should be following, because God doesn't like that. He's a jealous God. He wants no competition. And it takes real commitment to follow. You have to submit and give everything over to him. And this is another point, decision-making time. This is count the cost. You got to count the cost. And Joshua's saying, count the cost. Count the cost. Because, you know, this is going to be a tough road to walk. Because the world goes a different route, which means you're going to be going upstream. All right? You're going to be fighting it the whole way. Count the cost. And in verse 21, what do we have? It says this. But the people said to Joshua, no, we will serve the Lord. They were going to be serious, they said. We know what it's going to take. We know the cost. Then Joshua said, you are witnesses against yourself that you have chosen to serve the Lord. Man, your own words are going to come back to get you if you don't stick with them. Yes, we are witnesses, they replied. Yes, we understand. Yes, we know. We know what we're saying. We know what we're getting into. Now then, said Joshua, throw away the foreign gods that are among you and yield your hearts to the Lord, the God of Israel. I had to think about this. There must have been people there with foreign gods in their tents, in their houses. Something that they were worshiping other than the Lord God. And Joshua is saying, hey, it's time to get rid of those things. It's time to throw them away. And the people said to Joshua, we will serve the Lord our God and obey him. We're going to do what God wants us to do. And on that day, Joshua made a covenant for the people, meaning he had them agree to something. When you make a covenant back then, there usually involved a sacrifice, and the sacrifice would be put out, and the covenant would be a reminder as if you break this covenant, the sacrifice made, these animal parts that are put down there, that's what will happen to you if you break the covenant. They took their oath seriously. And they were there at Shechem, and he drew up for them decrees and laws. This is to help you walk the walk. This is to help you live your life. And Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God. Then he took a large stone and set it up there under the oak near the holy place of the Lord. So he took this stone, and they're going, a stone? I'm sure this stone had a certain shape to it. I'm sure this stone really stuck out because anytime someone would see that stone, they would be reminded of what it meant. It's like at Christmas, we're reminded about what Jesus did. He came into the world, and we look at the manger scene. This is not just a nice little piece of artwork. This is supposed to mean something to us. When we see it, we see that Jesus came for us. And so then he said, see, he said to all the people, this stone will be a witness against us. It has heard all the words the Lord has said to us. It will be a witness against you if you are untrue to your God. When you see this stone and you're walking around, you see it and you remember, you better start thinking about the commitment you made to God at this place. And then what happened in verse 28? Then Joshua sent the people away, each to his own inheritance. You see, what the decision-making time needs is always the sixth point. Follow through with your decision. A decision means nothing if you don't follow through with it. You maybe decide that you need to do what? Go have a diet this year, eat more healthy. That decision means nothing unless you actually do it. You may be deciding, I got to read the Bible a little bit more, spend a little more time with God. It means nothing if you don't follow through with it. So in conclusion, you're going to make many choices this year. Many. Big ones, small ones. But the most important decision you're going to have to make this year is, what are you going to do with Jesus? What are you going to do with Jesus? We just celebrated the memory that we have of his birth, his coming into this world. And why did he come? To die on the cross for you and me. You see, he came as a baby to grow up to be a man. So he didn't stay in the manger cute and innocent. No, he grew up to become someone. And he became this man who died on the cross for you and me. And then what you choose is going to shape what you value. What you choose is going to shape what you prioritize. What you choose is what you're going to, what you choose to do, the decision you make is going to be what you're going to act upon. And then it's going to shape your worldview. And it's going to shape you. It's going to mold you. It's going to make you. And this year, you'll be confronted with many things. Things that you can't control. Circumstances that are going to be out of your realm. But let me say, one thing you can do is you can make the choice to follow, worship, and serve God in the midst of everything you're going through. So, beginning of this year, it's a time to make a decision. A decision to do what? Time to get serious. Remember what God has done. Now is the time to make a decision. Don't put it off. Don't say, I'll do it later. Make your own decision. This has to be something you got to do in your own life. This is not something you inherit. Just because my mom and dad were believers doesn't mean I'm a believer. I had to make the decision on my own and follow it on my own because my parents weren't always going to be there to guide and direct me. I needed to make a stand on my own, and I did many, many times. When I was ridiculed and made fun of for my beliefs, I stood strong. Why? Because I knew what God had done for me. And if God is real, I'm going to stick with him. And then I got to count the costs. There's going to be costs, folks. There's going to be costs. I mean, there's a lot of people today that say, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but I can't get up to go to church. And let me tell you what happens. This is what I've seen over and over and over and over again. I've been doing this here for 23 plus years, and I was involved in stuff. The people who stopped going to church eventually fell away from the faith. And then the parents who stopped coming to church and not making church a priority, how many of their children? It's hard enough for parents to pass their faith on to their children today. But if they're not bringing their kids to church, guess what's happened? I've seen it over and over and over. Now, you can say, I've seen other things, but this is what I've seen in my life, is that those parents who don't make church a priority, very rarely do you see the kids make faith a priority. And so the decisions you make, you got to follow through with, and it's going to be tough. There's going to be times you say, no, I don't want to do that right now, but you're going to have to get up and do it. It's like cleaning your house. No one's going to come by and clean it for you unless you pay them. And many of you probably don't have that money to pay somebody to clean your house. So you can either sit there and let it get dirtier and dirtier and dirtier and messier, or you can get up and do something about it. Start one room at a time. Start one table at a time. Do something. Same with your faith. You're going to have to do the same thing. So today is a day to choose. It's the 4th of January, 2026. How are you going to start your year? It comes a choice. But follow through with that choice.